As a beginner photographer, I'm sure you struggle with some, if not all, of the following mistakes I'm going to talk about in today's video. Every photographer had to start from the bottom, and trust me, they would have made these same mistakes too, including myself. So stay tuned because I'm going to tell you which mistakes you're making and how to avoid them. Hey guys, and welcome back to Lizzie's Perspective. Today's video is jam-packed with useful tips which will help every beginner photographer no matter what stage they are at. Now, as I just said before, I too am guilty of making these same 10 mistakes that all beginner photographers make. In fact, I'm still making some of these mistakes today, but it's all about knowing what you're doing wrong and breaking the habit. Hence why I thought I'd make this video for you guys to help you become aware of the bad habits that you may not even know you were doing, and some tips on how you can help improve them and become the awesome photographer that you have the potential for. So let's not waste another minute and jump right into the first mistake. Number 1, not focusing properly. For this mistake, I'm not actually talking about manual focus, I'm talking about autofocus. Sometimes when people are taking photos, they can be very tempted to just focus on whatever is in the center of their frame, i.e. wherever their focus points are in the viewfinder, therefore only focusing on that subject. However, when they later review their photos, they may notice that the point in the middle of the frame was the only subject in focus and everything else was out of focus. This is very common if you don't have a subject to focus on. So for example, with landscape photography, when you want the whole image to be sharp, this can cause a lot of confusion as people don't know exactly what to focus on. A tip to prevent this mistake from being made is called hyperfocal distancing. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about this because quite frankly, it's too confusing to the point where even I don't understand it. But basically, a cheat to achieve this hyperfocal distancing is to focus on a subject that is 1/3 of the depth into your shot, and this should ensure that everything before and after the point of focus is sharp. Mistake number 2, composition. Getting the right composition can be very tricky and it can either make or break a photograph. Without the right composition, your photo will look like you just stood there and snapped a shot like you're a tourist on holidays. To prevent this from happening, what you want to do is plan your shot. So look at your scenery, what looks interesting and what can be used as a focus point. Try a different approach or angle to see what vamps up your final shot. Some tips to help you frame your composition is the rule of thirds. So some cameras actually have a grid built into them, which I think you can see in the live view mode. If not, just imagine your frame is broken into 3x3 squares, and what you want to do is place objects within your frame on the points where those lines intersect. This will help ensure that your photo is looking balanced. Another tip is to have a foreground interest in your shot. So if you have this beautiful landscape and you feel it isn't capturing quite as well on camera as you see in person, sometimes finding an object to focus on in the foreground, like a rock or a tree or something, will actually increase the aesthetics of the final shot, as the audience has something nice to look at in the front of the shot and it will then lead them into the background, therefore creating that appeal. There are loads more tips on composition, however these are just a couple of easy ones to get you started. Mistake number 3, purpose. Now, I've thrown this one into the mix because sometimes I feel like I might take a photo and then later when I review it, I think, why did I take that photo? Because I feel like there was no purpose or meaning behind it, and it just doesn't seem as flattering now as it did when I initially took the shot. Now, I'm not saying that every photo needs meaning or purpose, but it definitely helps with the composition side of things if there's a mood or a reason behind what you're shooting, as it helps connect to the audience. Therefore, it becomes a more appealing shot for them to look at rather than just a pretty photo. Mistake number 4, great gear doesn't mean great photos. I can't stress this enough. Just because you have the best gear available doesn't mean that you're going to capture these whiz-bang, wonderful, amazing shots. Isn't there a saying that goes, it doesn't matter what you've got, it's about how you use it, or something like that? Well, the same applies in photography. If you don't know how to use the gear you've got, then of course you're going to take crappy shots. So remember, you could have a shoddy old camera and know exactly how to control the settings to achieve the shot that you want and still get a photo that is the same quality and wow factor as someone who has a brand new top of the line camera. And I even proved that to you guys in my Mark Gray photography tour video when I used my Nikon D3400, which is an old beginner's camera. Mistake number 5, not committing to practice. This was a massive downfall of mine because what I would do is I'd go out, I'd practice for a little bit and be like, yeah, I've either got the settings or, yeah, I've kind of got the settings. And then I go, great. And then I put my camera away for months on end. I think at one point I didn't even touch my camera for 12 months. So by the time I got it out again and went to take some more photos, I had no idea what I was doing. And I feel like I had to relearn everything again. And although I may have picked it up a little bit quicker, I still felt that there was that learning phase of trying to figure out where your buttons are, figure out what settings you need, remember what ISO you need for what type of light settings. So for this, I can't encourage it enough. Practice, practice, practice. Even if it's just shooting around the house or whatever's on your table. You don't physically have to go out. Hello. All right, kitty. Come on, they're probably hearing you purring. You don't physically have to go out somewhere just to practice using your camera. You can even do it around the house. So photograph whatever's on your table or find a nice setting to shoot, or even do it in your backyard or down at your local park. Just practice, practice, practice is all I can say, because trust me, you will thank me for it in the long run, because you'll find that a spontaneous photo shoot might come up and instead of going, oh, I'm not so confident with the camera settings, you'd be like, let's go get this shot. I know exactly what I'm doing. And another thing too, by continuing to practice your photography skills, you'll eventually get past that I have no idea what I'm doing photographer phase, and you'll actually start to step into this amazing, wonderful world of I know what I'm doing and I want to start experimenting with amazing things. And from there, you'll actually find your niche of what you love to photograph, and you'll find that photography will be less frustrating and more fun, and you'll start to get more creative with it, and you'll just absolutely love it. So don't give up, keep practicing, because trust me, it's worth it. Mistake number 6, forgetting to check the settings you used from last time. I am so bad at this, and you think I would have learnt by now, but no. I get to my next stop and I get so excited that I actually forget to check what settings I used on my camera. So do yourself a favor and learn from my mistakes. Always check that your shooting format is in RAW and not JPEG, and always double check your focus, because there has been countless times where I've set up the focus and then changed it to manual focus so it doesn't change while I'm shooting at a particular location, and then when I move to the next spot I forget all about the focus and I've just done the entire shoot without readjusting the focus. This has to be the worst habit of mine, and I'm trying so hard to break it, so don't make it a bad habit of yours. Mistake number 7. Taking too many photos and keeping too many final shots. In the very beginning, I was terrible at this. I would literally take thousands of photos with the mindset of, surely I'd get a good shot out of these ones. And then when I get home and review the photos, shock horror, because I was using the same incorrect settings, they all came out terrible. So my advice to you is to not take too many photos with the expectation of getting a decent shot, because chances are you'll rarely get that decent shot if your camera settings are not correct to begin with, or if your focus was off. Mistake number 8, over-editing. Again, guilty of this one too. I over-edited my photos to the point where the clarity and the vibrancy scales were almost at 100, and the photos looked like they just stepped out of a 60s fashion magazine. They were shocking. I've since learnt that less is more, and a good technique to ensure this is to compare the edited photo against the original photo to ensure that you're not going too overboard with the editing. Mistake number 9, don't rush. I'm bad for this one too, because generally when I go photographing, I'm almost always with someone else, and I feel like I'm an inconvenience to them every time I want to stop to take a photo. So for this reason, I generally rushed the photo taking process, and then when I went back to review it, the photos were clearly bad and unusable. Over time, I learned to become more comfortable, and obviously as I got to understand the camera settings a bit more, I was a lot quicker at finding the correct settings, and therefore I became a lot faster at taking the photos, and I was able to relax and take my time to think about and plan the composition without taking up too much time with the people I'm traveling with. So this will only come with time as you get better with your camera, but try your best to not rush the shot, because it'll probably turn out crap and then you definitely would have wasted everyone's time. Lucky last, mistake number 10. Don't be afraid to experiment. Sometimes you'll be somewhere where there'll be people around, and if you're like me, you get a little bit nervous that they're watching you take photos because you've got a fancy camera. And because of this, sometimes I missed out on heaps of great shots because I was just too afraid to get into that weird position to get that desired shot. So I'm here to tell you to do it. Get in those weird positions, look silly while you're taking your photos. They'll only judge you once, but who cares? They don't even know you. All that matters is that you got this amazing shot because you thought of a different perspective that no one else has thought of before. So never pass up that amazing opportunity. Okay, so these are 10 mistakes that I made as a beginner photographer, which I'm sharing with you so you can avoid doing the same thing. But tell me, are there any other mistakes that you see yourself doing that I haven't mentioned in today's video? Comment below because I would love to hear all about the struggles that other photographers out there are having. Anyways guys, bye for now and I'll see you all next Wednesday. Bye! Mistake number 9. That's 8. You stop.